Hi guys, it's Tara and welcome to day 3 of my Handmade Holiday 2015 video series. Today I'm going to be making this fun little winter themed card using some fabulous Unity stamps. So this is the Little Frosty Friends stamp set from Unity Stamp Co. Comes with all these adorable little snowmen and these little sentiments, and it's so much fun. I'm using the Hello Winter pack by Echo Park for my papers, and then I have this fun Doris embossing folder and this Doris kind of emboss resist folder thing. And what it does is when you run it through your Big Shot, it creates that panel where there's no embossing amidst the embossing. So I wanted to show you up close a little bit that I did get a very light emboss still on that oval area, but it wasn't enough to affect my card. So I am going to be taking some Memento Tuxedo Black ink because I will be doing a little bit of Copic coloring today, and I'm going to stamp one of those little adorable snowmen in that panel in the embossing that is left flat. So this just creates a nice highlight area so you can put all that dry embossing and texture all around your colored image and still have, so it just kind of creates your layout for you, which is really awesome because as some of you know who've been watching my videos, layouts are not my favorite part. I like to color and I like to use all the cute little stamps, and then I'm always struggling to figure out how to put them together on the card in a cute way. So products like this that help make that part a little bit easier for me are always something that I want to try out. So this is my first time using it, so I'll still probably experiment with the sandwich that I run through my Big Shot and see if I can find a way to not get that little bit of embossing on the panel. I find that Doris embossing folders tend to cut a little bit deeper than some of the other brands, so maybe I'll try it with like maybe a Cuttlebug folder and see if it works any differently. So my Copic coloring today is really super simple. I am using some really light blues to give this little snowman a little bit of dimension and have him have that frosty blue snow look here. And then I'm just using my colorless blender to blend those really light colors out. And once that dries, it's going to look really cute. Right now you can kind of see where the colorless blender has saturated the paper. But once that dries back, then it won't look quite so dark in those sides where I applied that there. So I'm making his little scarf some pinks. This is kind of a non-traditional holiday card. I'm going with like the blue and pink tones as opposed to reds and greens. I just felt like this little snowman just, I don't know, something about him said he needed to be colored in blues and pinks. This little set is so cute. Unity has a whole line of these little stamps, and there's little Halloween ones with like little kids dressed up in costumes, and then there's a little Frosty Friends, and I have one I'm excited to use that's like all the little people at the North Pole, so it's Santa and Mrs. Claus and a reindeer, and they all kind of have this same little squatty, they usually have no arms either, but snowman you gotta have the little stick arms. So but yeah, they're super cute. You guys should totally check them out. I'll be linking them over at my blog, so make sure you go over and click on that link and see what other littles they have over there at Unity Stamp Co. So my Copic coloring is just about done. I decided, as you can see, to go with a little bit of a blue color for that heart, and then I'm just going to color in his little carrot nose with a couple of oranges. I've got all the colors there next to the coloring so you can see which ones I'm using. I'm very distracted while I'm doing this voiceover. Egon, my kitty, is just really enjoying hanging out in my new craft room with me, and he's like rubbing all on me while I'm trying to he's walking on the computer. Anyway, back to the card. So now that I have colored the snowman, I'm going to take some of my distress inks and I'm going to be adding a little bit of additional texture to that beautiful embossed background. So I'm starting with my Weathered Wood distress ink. And to be honest, if I did this card over again, I probably wouldn't go with this one. It turned out a little bit darker than I was looking for, but I still think that it turned out pretty. It's kind of adding a little bit of darker shadow. It's kind of a blue-gray color. So now to brighten it up, I'm coming in with my Tumbled Glass distress ink, and I'm just going to go over some other areas. So the trick to doing this is you just want to use a really light hand so that your ink only gets on the portions of the embossing that are raised, and then the background stays white. So it provides some really awesome texture when you're using those embossing folders. Just another way to add dimension with that tool. So now I wanted to bring in a little bit of the pink because his little scarf is pink and that's kind of the color scheme I'm going for. So I'm just using my spun sugar, which is a really soft, sweet pink color, and I'm just going over some of those areas, and then it's bringing out a little bit of pink, and then it's also creating kind of a really fun purple where it's mixing with some of those blues that I've already put down. So this is really just multicolored. I was going for kind of a whimsical snow flurry. I don't know. I just wanted the colors to be on there, and you can see how pretty they blended when you see it up close there. So now that I've got that done, I am going to put that on the background. I used my basic die set by Mama Elephant to create the really cute scalloped background as well as the stitched rectangle inner piece. And so now for my sentiment, I wanted to try something new. I'm going to use some vellum. And I'm not a huge fan of vellum. I never really know what to do with it. So I wanted to try something a little different here. So you can see with my pencil, I'm laying my vellum where I want it to sit. And then I'm marking on that oval that the snowman is in, the edges of that vellum. And then I'm going to take my craft knife and I'm going to very carefully slice the edges of that shape so that I can ultimately slide the vellum behind the snowman piece and it looks like it's just kind of a continuous vellum strip, but the snowman gets to pop out in front of it without actually popping him out. So I hope that makes sense. Once you kind of see what I do, it'll make more sense. I did have to go back in a second time because apparently I was being very, very careful and timid with my first cut and I didn't actually get all the way through the paper. So I'm just going back in and making sure that those cuts are all the way open. So now that that's done, I'm going to take my vellum and set it underneath my card so that I can kind of eyeball where I want my sentiment to go. And I'm going to take one of the cute little sentiments in that set as well as some deep sea dye ink from Lawn Fawn, and this is a really pretty deep navy blue. I thought it would go nicely with my that Echo Park winter paper as well as the colors I'd chosen for my snow, and I'm just going to stamp that on the vellum, and then I did actually hit this with my heat tool before I did the next step to make sure that I didn't smear any of that ink because it takes a little bit longer to dry on the vellum. So now I'm going to take that and I'm going to start doing some basket weaving 101 here. And I am going to take the one end of the vellum and push it underneath the oval and then flip the panel over and push the vellum back through out the other side. So you can see now that it goes all the way across my card, but it goes underneath that snowman. So it kind of gives it a neat little seamless look without really having to do a whole lot of extra work. I'm just going to fold that over on the ends and use my zig glue pen to go ahead and adhere that vellum onto the back of the card, and that helps me out with using vellum because my biggest thing with vellum is I never know how to adhere it to my card without it showing. So anytime I can get it on the back or something, I do that. I put my acrylic block on there to help it that adhesive stick because it was having a little trouble on that one side. So now I'm just using my ATG gun to put some adhesive on the back of that decorative panel, and I'm going to put that on my A2 top folding card base. It is top folding longwise. I tried to readjust a little bit. It didn't want to, so I went with it. Sometimes you just have to embrace it. And so you can see there kind of what the card is going to look like as it comes together. I did want that panel to be popped up, but rather than using a whole bunch of foam tape to do that, I decided to take a scrap of some craft foam that I had and go ahead and trim that down to fit behind that front panel. You can see that oval on the craft foam. The craft foam was part of my sandwich experiments as I ran these through my Big Shot. I did end up just using my normal embossing folder sandwich that I would always use for an embossing folder, just so that if you wanted to try out some of these embossing diffuser things. That's what I used, and I'm still going to play with it and see if I can find anything that I like better. But I did try the craft foam. It didn't work, but that's why that has that oval on it. So I used my Tombow Mono multi-glue to go ahead and adhere the foam to the panel and then to turn around and put that whole piece right on the front of my card. So now is the fun part. I am going to start doing some embellishing, which is always the part that I love at the end. And I am going to start by placing some wood veneer hearts because the sentiment says you warm my heart, and he's got that little heart in his hand, so I thought I'd run with it. And I just took a bunch of random wood veneer hearts that I have in my collection and I kind of scattered them around. I love those teeny weeny baby ones that come in this pack. I think they're so much fun. I've squirted just the tiniest bit of my Ranger Multimedia Matte onto a sticky note there, and I am just going to place each of these little hearts, the back of it, in that adhesive and then just stick it on the card. You can see I did switch to using my tweezers because my my fingers were not having it. So I am putting that on there. You just need the littlest amount. If it does squish out, it's no problem because this adhesive dries matte, so you won't see it on your card, which is awesome. Love things that make it easy to fix mistakes. And it's a really super strong adhesive. So if you send this card through the mail, you're not going to have to worry about all those little hearts falling out. Now, I say that, but I did come back in afterwards with some Copics to try to add some color to these hearts, and I didn't let it dry quite long enough, so that little heart does kind of come off and I have to re-stick it. But if you let it dry all the way, then it's super sticky and it will not pop off. So I wanted to kind of make the hearts the same color as his little scarf, so I added some of that pink, but I decided that I didn't think that that was dark enough and I didn't like it. So I came back in with my classic, this is what I do every time I use wood veneers, is I use my Sakura Jelly Roll Stardust pens. And I color right over the top of them, and not only does the color go on flawlessly, but it gives this amazing, beautiful sparkle. So I used a dark pink on the little tiny hearts, and then I'm coming in with a little pale pink that matches his scarf like perfectly. And I'm coloring those two bigger hearts. The trick with this on the wood veneers, I find, is that you don't press very hard because that little ball in the end of the Jelly Roll pen has to be able to roll around to let the ink come out. So you just kind of have to have a really light hand, and I use little small circles and I don't have any problem. So now I've got some crystal stickles, and I'm just putting a nice little dot of glitter in the middle of all of those snowflakes in the background just to make that pop a little bit. And then I'm also going to come back and put some of that over the little heart that he's holding in his hand. I couldn't stop glittering this piece. It just kept happening. I couldn't, sometimes we have to just walk away, and I needed to just walk away from this one. But it got lots of fun sparkle. I did even go in after I filmed with the stickles, and I added a little bit of blue shadow underneath of the snowman and then put some stickles on top of it to make sparkly snow, because like I said, I even walked away and I came back. I couldn't stop. It's a compulsion. I have a problem. I'm adding glossy accents to the top of those wood veneer hearts because I think that is so pretty on top of the Stardust pens, and it also makes it look like little enamel accents that you just created all on your own. And then I thought his little carrot nose needed some glossy accents as well. So now this card is finally done. With the exception of the snow I'll add later off camera, and you can see how pretty all the sparkle and shimmer is there and all that texture. So here's a close-up. You can see the snow I did add, and you can see all that sparkle, all that shimmer. I really like the way that this card turned out. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. If you like this video, please hit subscribe, give me a thumbs up. I'm going to list and link all the supplies over at my blog. You can join me on Facebook, Pinterest, and Instagram. And here are links to the first 2 days of my Handmade Holiday 2015 series. Thanks for joining me. Have a good one. Bye.